Looks like us crazy conspiracy theorists are proven right again. Whistleblower gives evidence the Pentagon holds female soldiers to lower standards. As if that wasn't completely obvious for years, but now it's finally making the mainstream media. Because for the longest time, everyone with a functioning brain has known that this is happening. But meanwhile, you got those mouth breathers that fall for the propaganda. They've been saying, oh, look at all these women that are now passing the incredibly hard special forces training. See, women are just as strong as men. Thanks to a new focus on diversity, we see evolving standards that are not consistent with Special Operation Forces culture. You know what that means, right? That means that Special Operation Forces culture has to change. And they need to get more diverse because diversity is more important than meritocracy in your elite units. Now, according to an anonymous whistleblower letter posted by Air Force Times, Pentagon policymakers are promoting diversity and inclusion at the expense of high, uncompromised standards in an elite Special Operations Forces command. The letter focuses an unnamed female captain who began training with a Special Tactics Training Squadron in current year -4, hoping to become the first WAMMans to join a combat controller team. The female captain dropped out of physically demanding combat controller course exercises several times, but unlike male trainees with similar difficulties, Air Force Special Operations Command officials kept extending the special concessions to keep her in the program. That's right. If you're a guy, you don't get any help. You're on your own. If you're one of the diversity hires they're trying to prop up, oh, you get special treatment. The detailed anonymous letter reported 11 examples of unusual concessions that AFSOC extended to retain the female captain, even though she had not met long-standing standards and repeatedly dropped out of essential training events such as rigorous diving exercises and solo land navigation. Air Force Times, which confirmed details with a second source, obtained performance forms and score charts that appeared to support the whistleblower's letter and submitted them for comment to AFSOC Commander Lieutenant General Jim Slife. Slife did not refute specific allegations, citing privacy considerations, and also because he knows he can't refute them because they're true, but he vehemently denied that AFSOC standards had changed. Yes, we still have the same standards, you just have to accept that they're double standards. The same set of standards you men have always had, you still have, but for the women, they have this different set of standards. We haven't changed any existing standards. We just have two sets of them now. While the standards remain the same, the norms have not. This is an equivocation based on half-truth. Norms did change last year when the U.S. Special Operations Command, Commander General Richard Clark, or Dick, as we'll call him, released his Diversity and Inclusion Strategic Plan. The Center for Military Readiness analyzed the SOCOM diversity mandate, noting that 12 times on 20 pages, the document asserted without evidence that diversity and inclusion are operational imperatives. These vacuous, unsupported words have triggered turbulence in one of the nation's most elite fighting forces, and probably more we don't know about. Absolutely, there's more you don't know about. You want to know why? Because if anyone complains about this, they get in trouble. So everyone just keeps their mouth shut until the problem boils over and explodes in everyone's face. Air Force Special Tactics Combat Controllers often deploy as one-man attachments to Special Forces teams such as Navy SEALs, Army Delta Force, and Marine Raiders. They are FAA certified, trained in scuba, parachuting, and other Special Forces skills, and capable of establishing airfields in hostile areas, calling in airstrikes, and evacuating fallen colleagues during perilous covert missions. The female captain deadlifted 250 pounds, an impressive feat, but special tactics officers must deadlift 300, a test tied to mission requirements. A man who can lift 400 pounds may still not be qualified if he doesn't show the mental toughness needed to stay in training without quitting. Nevertheless, when the female captain self-eliminated from strenuous diving and solo land navigation events, AFSOC commanders kept extending special career options to get her back in the ST squadron, where she will resume training soon. If true, responsibility for these extraordinary concessions belonged to SOCOM's first ever Chief Diversity and Inclusion Officer, Dick Torres Estrada, Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin, and SOCOM Commander General Clark. Yes. They have a diversity and inclusion officer. The military can never complain about lacking money ever again. If they can afford to throw money away on bloat like a chief diversity and inclusion officer, then they're not short on funds. I'm sorry. In Current Months 1, Torres Estrada, or Dick, was removed as diversity czar, but his reinstatement coincided with the release of SOCOM Diversity Inclusion Strategic Plan. Insisting that diversity and inclusion are operational imperatives, the document ordered ST commanders to ruthlessly reassess our cultural norms. Pretentious words like that have consequences. Now we see evolving standards and norms that are not consistent with Special Operations Forces culture. Yup, so you got to change the existing culture. It's not about meritocracy anymore, it's about diversity. According to Anna Simmons, author of a book on the subject, trainees who voluntarily withdraw are not demeaned, but they're not coddled either. No one tries to convince a voluntary withdraw that he might be making a mistake or that he should rethink his decision. Special Forces assessment and selection is all about elimination. Absolutely. It's their own choice. Dropping out of ST training is no disgrace. 70-80% of male aspirants do not make it through the 3-year combat controller course. Slife nevertheless split hairs between standards and norms, raising questions about his latest decisions as AFSOC commander. Wrote Slife, how we bring trainees through training pipeline today is different than the way we did it 15 years ago, because our understanding of the best way to get trainees to meet the standards and be ready to join the operational force has evolved. We have 2 sets of standards now, yes. Special operators whose necks and missions are on the line to see through the semantics, finishing each phase of training without quitting is an essential qualification that is critically important for unit cohesion, which means mutual trust for survival and mission accomplishment. Yup, you don't want somebody in a key position that's known to bitch out. Now, you really don't. Or if you do, then you have a death wish. So that's all I'm going to say right there. A confidential Navy source explains the new norms because equity is more important than individual excellence. How a female trainee is deemed qualified, even after multiple failures, becomes irrelevant. It's like 2 people taking a written test in which one is required to provide answers from memory and the other is given a list of answers. Both score 100% on the test and are called equally qualified. Oh my God. Now that's harsh, but that is true. Hey, they both got 100. They're equally qualified. Special tactics operators, however, don't get multiple chances to carry a wounded colleague to safety. They only get one: pass or fail, live or die. High-level policymakers see nothing wrong with this. In their minds, discriminatory practices that put everyone at greater risk are called additional opportunities to succeed. Promotable officers must meet diversity goals, so career self-interest increases pressure to make the new norm work. And then the first time they're put to the test against a foreign superpower, this is all going to bite him in the ass. Slife attacked the integrity of the unknown whistleblower, accusing him of singling out a fellow service member for public abuse, bullying, and harassment. It is unfortunate that the unknown whistleblower felt compelled to post this letter, but the Defense Department does not provide options for calling out dangerous training practices. Yeah, this is the same thing. Like they always tell you, oh, why didn't you work within the system to fix this? When these people control the system and manipulate it in such a way so they can't do it. It's especially funny when you say that to someone who has actually on multiple occasions tried to work within the system. But this is a double-edged sword, though. You guys want to keep pushing this Stronk Whammons narrative? You're losing excuses to not draft women. Go ahead. Women are just as qualified as men, so they should be in the draft. No one should blame the female captain for policies she did not make. I agree. In a written report, she did not mention any unprofessional behavior or pressure from instructors to self-eliminate, but she did recognize that changes in standards invalidate me with the majority of my team. The situation is unfair and demoralizing for everyone concerned. AFSOC leaders have called for an investigation of how Whammons are being treated, but they are not asking the right questions. The issue is not about Whammons, it's about priorities. They don't care. Like you got to realize, the top military brass are not soldiers, they're politicians. They couldn't care less. Like, the only thing they care about is their own political future. That's it. Instead of supporting the Pentagon's small army of diversity-crats and woke leaders like those running Special Operations Command, Congress should challenge all military and civilian officials who are turning sound priorities upside down. But those politicians don't want to do that either. You got to remember. And this is why we need constant threats, constant suffering. Notice that all of this decline coincidentally happened after the US lost the only competition it had when the Soviet Union fell. Now they're getting too comfortable and complacent sitting at the top for so long. They think they can get away with this because, no one can hold a candle to us. We're too big to fail. Until one day you fail.